it was crazy. So we backed off, and occasionally we still get emails about some retreat in India, but none of us are going. We also added Pilates to that because we knew that was going to be a big deal. We did specifically keep out personal training because it's been our experience and talking to various schools that teach this that due to the level of injury possibility, they felt that there should be some regulation. We do believe that personal training is going on in a lot of places, and there's no actual standard for what they should be teaching. So we do have concerns about that, and we send our unlicensed school letters out. Another area that we changed in the law for some clarification dealt with trade shows and conferences. This happens a lot in New York City where out-of-state schools or organizations come in and present workshops to various people, and we wanted to put a little more clarity on that. Do I think it's going to make it 100% smooth? No, I don't think so. But we're hoping that we can protect the public a little bit more. Remember, our goal is to protect students, but also the monetary investment. We're having a terrible time right now. Anybody here in bartending? Teach bartending? Okay, there should be people here. We're having a lot of problems. We've always called it the bartending wars. We'll get calls and say, well, this guy's doing this and this guy's doing that, and we try to have some standards with it. We require a 40-hour course, and you know, the unlicensed ones tell them they can get a job after 2 hours. There is an amazing number of Groupon ads on the internet for bartending, and we actually feel really badly for the bartending schools because they're trying to do it the right way, and these guys are coming in. Actually, one of them is a licensed school, and they're doing it. So we have a policy guideline on it. That might have to evolve over time. I don't see how we're going to be able to control that. You know that you have the ability to do tuition discounts, but the Groupon thing is huge. And this one guy wrote to us and said that they had taken like $50,000 worth of training money through the Groupon ad. And no, you know, the students didn't have any protection. Do they complain? No, the students aren't going to complain about it. But still, it's got to be a level playing field. So this touches a bit on the idea of the workshop, and they can't offer it more than twice in a year, and no more than 5 days. Now, one big controversy, and my staff never liked it, certainly not my investigators, but as you know, we've had issues over the years with unlicensed schools, and we try to get it under control, and we've recently undergone an audit through the Office of the State Controller, and believe me, they look at everything. It's been a grueling experience. They have not yet released the draft of the audit, but one of the things they were looking at very closely was, how do we handle unlicensed schools? And there's really nothing specific in our statute that says we are responsible to monitor, prosecute, and license these schools, but the inference is there because we talk about what the fines would be. So we do what we can. If it's an allied health school, we will act more quickly than we would with a bartending school because public health is at risk. But it's a fine line. They were very critical of us, and we've pushed back on that because we don't feel it's our specific or #1 priority. Our priority is to service the schools that are licensed and are complying with the law. So this was actually Joe Fry's concept where we developed the idea of candidacy schools. Now those of you who teach allied health such as CNA, HHA, which leads to certification on a federal exam or inclusion on a registry in the New York State registry. This would not apply to those schools. They cannot apply for it. Also, appearance enhancement schools where someone gets an actual license through the Department of State. This would not apply to them, which is a good thing. We expanded the offering of courses to other businesses, students who come from employers and they do not have any tuition liability. It's been expanded to include public groupings. So if someone works for the Nassau County Water District, that would no longer have to fall under us, and they could take courses under that exemption. One of the big areas, and Monica used to talk about this a lot because she was so involved with the National Association of School Administrators. New York State had the lowest application fee to become a licensed school. We felt strongly that the $250 fee was an open invitation for the person who calls us up and said, I got up this morning and I thought it would be a good idea to open a school. $250 isn't too much of a hindrance for that. $5,000, I think they're going to think about it. They're also going to expect more out of us, which is something that we're looking at, certainly. But you would be amazed at how many calls we got like that. And it was really scary. And throughout the country, they were like, how can you leave this like this? It shows that you don't put any credence in what it means to have a New York State proprietary school license. And we thought that that made a lot of sense to us, too. It means something to have a proprietary school license in the state of New York. It means more in New York than it does in many other states because you are subject to so much scrutiny. It also helps you in other ways, though. I've had many occasions with investigators from other units who have said, you know, we're comfortable with what you do. We know how you regulate your schools. We know what your requirements are, and we respect that. And that helps them do their jobs as well. So I think that's a good thing. Many schools have also said to me, getting the license for New York State has made it a lot easier to become accredited because many of the same rules apply and you're used to that bureaucratic reporting. So now we have this new fee that will go into effect. Actually, the bill goes into effect on December 15th, not the 17th. The new fee for licensure is $5,000. As you know, we are revenue-based. All of our funding to operate the Bureau is from tuition assessment, which you pay. $3,000 of that $5,000 will be going into the supervisory account for the maintenance of the Bureau, and $2,000 is going into the tuition reimbursement account. Now, if you already have an existing school, an additional location would be $2,500. So that's important for you to know. That was something that was negotiated with the various interest groups, saying that, you know, if we're already licensed, we should get a break on that, and we concurred. The gross tuition and the gross annual tuition income on which your renewal fees are based, there was a lot of confusion on that. We had changed it in regulation like back in '97 where the fees had doubled, but the regulations didn't reflect it in the chart, and it was referenced in another small paragraph. We got rid of that. We've clarified it now, so these fees are very clear. there's been a 50% increase in the amount of annual renewal fee. The fees go to the maintenance of the Bureau. Candidacy schools, you might wonder how this works for them in terms of fees. If a school wants to come in as a candidate school, and you know, quite frankly, we have no idea if there are people waiting in the wings to do this. I know that this is done on accrediting level. Some of them offer the candidacy status while they perfect the license. They will have to pay a $5,000 fee to be a candidate school, as well as a $5,000 fee for the new school application. So that's a pretty heavy bite. They're allowed 12 months in which to perfect their package. If at 12 months we decide that they have been working well with us and that it looks like things are going to move toward licensing and they're complying, we will give them an extension up to 18 months. It's a one-time opportunity. Again, we don't know. The only thing we're asking from a candidate school is for them to give us a financial viability statement, a financial statement, so we know where we stand in terms of are they risking the students that they take on. They have to disclose to the students that they are a candidate school, they are not licensed, that they are in the process of getting licensed, and that nothing that they do is approved by us. In the event that the student doesn't get that, they are eligible, the student would be eligible upon complaint to get a refund. One of the reasons we are concerned about the financial viability, it all goes back to, and I love this word, our fiduciary responsibility to maintain the tuition reimbursement account. Many of you were here back in the mid-2000s, in the decade of like around 2005, maybe 2003, when 3 computer schools, part of a chain, closed. And their tuition was very, very hefty. And the refunds to the students put I say it put us in the red. Other people have different opinions, but we had to go back to the schools to reassess to get that fund back up. We take that very seriously. So financial viability has become a very important part of our review process. We look at new schools. We question whether they can accommodate the number of students they say. I mean, sometimes we'll get a new school package and they'll say, I'm going to train 2,085 students in my first year. How likely is that? Probably not 2. So we ask the field person, you know, what's the facility like? Can they accommodate this? If not, we go back to the school and say, let's be more realistic. And that will affect how much income they're bringing in. And based on what their expenses will be, we take that into consideration. So we're very concerned about that because the tuition reimbursement account is so important to everyone, to the schools, to the students, to the Bureau. I had a question that came from Division of Budget the other day. We've had quite a few school closures lately, small schools. And they question, you know, is this going to threaten the TRA in any way? Because they want to know. Of course, they always ask me the question, how much of a hit is the TRA going to get in 2013? I don't know. You have a crystal ball? I have no way of knowing. Sometimes we'll have a school that's on the bubble and we figure, you know, maybe something could happen, but that could take a while. We don't have a way of knowing, but we're constantly aware of how important it is to protect it. It's your money too. You put in money, and it's very, very important that we take it seriously. We also looked at requirements. At the present time, we allow 3 levels of financial statements, and these are used for our financial viability, whether we send them to the department auditors to consider using the federal composite score to see how they rate. Compiled, reviewed, and audited are the 3 levels that are currently in place. We are eliminating the compiled. We don't feel that that has any real place in terms of validity and integrity. We wanted to go to everyone having an audited statement. There was some pushback from the industry, so we compromised on that. And for schools that earn less than $500,000 in gross tuition for a year and less than $100,000 in financial aid may send in a reviewed statement, provided every other year an audit is done. Now, I'm aware audits are pretty expensive, but they're the gold standard, and it's something that we feel very strongly about having done. So we did give a little bit on that. It was $250, but again, this goes back 23 years, and $250,000 is reasonably low. Moving on, there's a lot of, takes a while, those of you who have ever looked at these documents and the crossouts and the brackets, and oh, you go crazy trying to figure it out. Any questions so far? Is there any question on that? Frank?
Just when you said that the additional location would be 2,500, would that be the same equally breakdown as far as advisory and
Yes. Yes. Same breakdown. Good question. And as a former teacher, and Thomas still teaches by distance, there's no stupid question in here. So don't feel that if something comes into your mind, you think it's pretty stupid. No, it's not. This is confusing stuff. Right now, the commissioner has the ability to suspend or revoke a license. We don't do it casually because the amount of work is considerable. It has to be an order to show cause signed by the commissioner. We have to make sure we've justified it. And you have to be pretty bad for us to seek revocation. We don't usually do that. We've added to the law that, again, focus on financial viability. If we see a financial condition that is threatening the ability of the students to complete their programs, we may take that step and put you on suspension, or we may revoke, whatever. In that same vein, we have provision to put a school on probation. At the present time, it's a 30-day probation, and it's based specifically on your financial condition. We've had some bankruptcies over the last couple years, and we have concerns about whether the students can finish their programs before the school closes. If the school is going to turn it around or not, we're not sure. So we've put schools on probation, and the current law allows a 30-day period in which to get out of the soup. 30 days is not going to do any institution any good, because you cannot turn things around in 30 days. You're well aware you're in trouble. During that period, you cannot enroll either. So that's pretty hefty. You know, you're going down, and now we say you can't enroll. Well, we don't want more students in there to be shut out when the school closes, if the school closes. Several years ago, I had an institution in Queens, and a couple of us had gone over because the school was closing. That morning, the director actually enrolled a student. Took $400 in cash from that student. The field associate for the school went over and she got the money from him out of his pocket. Because it was pretty appalling, but you know, things happen. We talk about various ways of improving your financial viability. Again, it comes down to risk to the TRA. If a school closes, and we've had this recently where an institution said, well, I just have to pay the student back for the amount of training they didn't receive. No, the law provides for a full tuition refund. And they say, but they got training. Well, are they going to be able to get a job? Did they get the training they signed up for? You broke the contract. So when these conditions are set up, we look at various ways. We say that you could secure a performance bond. That used to be the way that we had some assurance way back before the TRA. And that is something that if you choose to go that route because of financial viability, we will work with you to determine how much that bond has to be, and it's payable to the commissioner. We also say that you may collect tuition when the student has finished. Surprisingly, some schools have chosen to do that. And I think they can also set up a trust account. Okay. Transfer of ownership. How many of you have gone through that, transfer of ownership? I think there's been a lot of it. It's a complicated process, the way we have it set up now. Again, Monica found from her experience with the national organization, I don't think any other state in the country does it the way we do it. 10% or more is a transfer of ownership, and you have to go through a lot. Very few schools do it the way it's supposed to be done. We're supposed to approve it before it's finalized. We actually have an institution right now that technically bought the school, but they didn't buy the license. We haven't approved it, so they're not able to operate. They didn't do it the right way. We had a school that this happened to many years ago, and we never approved it. They were trying to get around, and it was some unsavory people, and we never approved it. So this person ended up suing the previous owner for the money, but they didn't do it the way they were supposed to do it. So currently it's 10% change, which isn't a heck of a lot. We're moving it to a 25% or more change, which is significant. And it's no longer going to be an assumption of the license. This will be a new school. The way it will work, when we approve the new school license, the previous school, which you are taking over, will close, and the new school license will happen at the same time. It's going to be an easier process. It's going to be, I think, quicker. And I think the 25% is more realistic. 10% doesn't go too far. Okay, tuition assessment. Any questions so far? Tuition assessment, we wanted to get this to be a little clearer because it's always been a fuzzy area. So Dave Sherwood came up with this idea, and I think it's a good one, where we talk about quarters, and that's based on your quarterly assessment. As you know, the bills just went out this week, that you are assessed by quarter for your yearly gross tuition assessment. So he talks about schools that have paid less than 16 quarters. So that would be 4 years. That defines the newer schools, and over 16 quarters defines the schools that have been more long-standing. Previously, for schools that, especially when you're first beginning, you don't make a lot in tuition, but you may require a lot of service. We had one school that she's no longer licensed, but she required a lot of hand-holding, and she never paid any assessment because she was below a certain level. So we've instituted, if you're below a certain level, no matter what, you have to pay $500 a year. If you're less than 16 quarters, you will be paying 1%. If you're over 16 quarters, it's 0.8 of 1%. 5% of the newer schools goes to the TRA. The concept behind that, Joe always called it welcome to the neighborhood, but it's for the newer schools that did not contribute initially. So we're getting a little bit more out of the newer schools. Over 16 quarters, 0.3 of 1% goes to the TRA, and the balance goes to the supervision account. Then we get into the financing and loans, et cetera. This caused a lot of concern on a national level, as many of you are aware, and I've been saying for a long time, and those of you who are in the business understand what I'm talking about, that I think the student loan crisis is bigger than, I used to say the savings and loan, that's how far back this goes. But more money is owed on student loans today than on credit cards. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. I was talking with a school owner last night at dinner, and he indicated many of his students will come, and they come in with huge indebtedness and no job, and they're looking to get some practical training to get a job. And you know, the thought of owing $100,000, $150,000 is just incredible. So we wanted to see if we could put some sort of disbursement schedule in place, and we have come up with one. And it's pretty carefully spelled out in the law. I don't want to go over all of it. As it applies to your school, I think you should look it over in the law. Our law is on the website. Does everyone know our website? Is that my phone? You know, I have a BlackBerry, and it's really quite amusing. Oh my goodness. Betty Zhao, who's one of our field people, I'm sure she'll call again. Last week during the storm, she lived in Queens, and one day she actually endeavored to walk to work. Yeah, 10 miles from her home. And she called me. She was walking. And I said, Betty, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm walking to work. I said, Betty, the state is closed. The office is not open. Below 39, there's nothing there. There's no power. Oh, okay. So then the next day she calls me. I'm in a meeting. She calls me on my phone. She calls me on my BlackBerry. She calls me on my phone, all in 5 minutes. Finally, I called her back, and I said, what was the emergency? And she said, I want to know if I had to charge my time. So, very conscientious lady. She takes almost no time off. So, if you hear my phone again, you know why. I'll turn it off for the next session. It's really funny. One of the things we negotiated with the appearance enhancement schools, and this was done through our cooperative effort, those of you who were involved know, many of you have students whose family might pay for their tuition. And they said, you know, we can't tell the grandfather of the student who's taking cosmetology that he's got to pay it in 4 segments. He's not going to like that. So we eliminated that. They don't have to do the disbursements. And it made sense to us. We've added additional entrance requirements. Thomas, you might want to talk about that. Give me a chance to get a